Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scott Manning coming to you live with the college football wrap-up for this past weekend. I want to thank you guys for tuning in and taking some time with me here on this day, on this Tuesday. We got a lot of things to talk about. I got some games I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about Ohio State, but I'm also going to talk about Michigan almost blowing it against Army. That's going to get addressed today too. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me. Let's have a great time and let's go ahead and get started. I'll also be handing out the game balls. So let's have a great show. Well, what did you guys think of the Clemson-Texas A&M game on Saturday? Clemson's still the number one team in the country as they beat number 12 Texas A&M 24-10. Trevor Lawrence, what can you say? 24-35, 268 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Lynn J. Dixon, 11 carries, 79 yards, and one touchdown in the game. And Justin Ross, 7 receptions for 94 yards, and he had a touchdown in the ball game as well. Clemson had everything going their way. I know it was a little bit last year in College Station. Texas A&M almost upset Clemson 28-26. It wasn't as close this time. The only player for A&M that really did anything was Kellen Mound. 24-42, 286 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. What was the deciding point in this game? Well, there's one thing that stuck out. Texas A&M only had 53 rushing yards. So the Clemson defense really did their job. They did what they had to do. And Texas A&M was limited to only 289 yards of total offense for the game. There's a lot to think about there too. And on fourth down, A&M, despite the fact they converted 2 for 2 on fourth down, they couldn't get the job done. But Texas A&M, 2 turnovers killed their shot, killed them right there. And that's what I'll basically all boil down to. You turn the ball over a lot, you're going to lose. So my hat's off to Clemson, and a big victory for them, and they got the job done against number 12 Texas A&M. Well now, the biggest main event of the night, number 6 LSU, number 9 Texas. This game was a classic all the way around. Texas had a chance to win it with an onside kick. Texas thought they'd recovered the ball, but the ball slipped out of the receiver's hands. And it went out of bounds. LSU got the ball. And they won the game 45-38. For LSU, Joe Burrow, the former Ohio State star, 31 of 39, 471 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. Justin Jefferson, 9 catches, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns in the game. Terrence Marshall Jr., 6 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. And the LSU defense, they really stepped up. 7 tackles for loss, 5 sacks in the ball game. And I'll tell you right now, I know it was a 45-38 contest in the other typical LSU-Texas battle, or an SEC Big 12 battle. It was decided in the trenches. Excuse me. But Texas did have some players too. Sam Ehlinger, 31 of 47, 401 yards, 4 touchdowns. He carried the ball 19 times for 61 yards and a touchdown in the game. Actually, he had 4 passing touchdowns, my bad. Devin Duvernay, 12 catches, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brennan Eagles, 5 receptions for 116 yards, he had a touchdown in the ball game. I look at everything. Despite the fact that LSU had 1 turnover, they got the job done. And it was really a close game all the way around. And I've always said, the big money downs, 3rd and 4th down, that's where the defensive coaches earn their pay. They earned their pay this time. LSU didn't have to try to convert a 4th down. Texas went 1 for 3 on 4th down in the game. And if you look at the stats battle, everything was close. Total yards, LSU 573, Texas 530. This was a game that was something very special. Joe Burrow, Athens, Ohio, the former Ohio State product who transferred to LSU. Is he in contention for the Heisman Trophy? We'll have to wait and see on that. But the bottom line is this. The Texas-LSU game Saturday night was a classic. Say what you want. Texas had a shot, but they blew it at the end. And that's all I got to say. And after the game, LSU coach Ed Orgeron was complaining that the Texas locker rooms had no air conditioning. Hey, you go to a visitor's house, the home team can do whatever the heck they want when they want. And that's all there is to it. All right. Now we got a couple of upset games I want to talk about. Number 25 Nebraska loses to Colorado. Nebraska was up 17-7 late in the game, and then they gave it away. For Colorado, Steven Montez, 28-41, 375 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. KD Nixon, 6 receptions, 148 yards, and a touchdown. Jaron Mangum, 11 carries, 44 yards. He had 2 touchdowns in the game himself. Tony Brown, 5 catches, 60 yards. He had a touchdown in the ball game. But for Nebraska, Adrian Martinez, 16-26, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He also carried the ball 19 times for 60 yards. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Maurice Washington, 4 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown in the ball game. J.D. Spielman, 5 receptions, 112 yards. He had a touchdown in the ball game himself. Now, where was this game decided? Nebraska turned the ball over 3 times. They were up. They were up by 10. They were running away with the ball game. At halftime, Coach Colorado sent one message to his players. Coach Mel Tucker told his players, "We've taken their best shot. Now it's time to give them ours." And that's exactly what they did. Colorado beats Nebraska 34-31. Colorado only had 89 rushing yards for the whole game. That was what's so incredible. And I've always talked about 3rd and 4th down being the big money downs. On 3rd down, Nebraska was only 5 for 15 on 3rd down, but on 4th down they were 1 for 1. This game, Nebraska choked. That's all there is to it. And the bottom line is this: Colorado may be they may be a team to watch out for in the Pac-12. Nah. But anyway, Nebraska. Are Coach Scott Frost going to have a replay of the embarrassment of 1 year ago? Hopefully everybody is not thinking that right now. That's all I'm going to say about that one. But congratulations to the Colorado Buffaloes. They beat Nebraska. Remember that game in 2000 when everybody said Eric Crouch was going to win the Heisman? He had a horrible game against Colorado and he still won it. And everybody in Boulder and everybody in Lincoln, everybody in Boulder, Colorado is on cloud 9. But everybody in Lincoln, Nebraska is crying that they choked. And that's all there is to it. All right. The next game I want to talk about. The Cal Golden Bears have upset the number 14 Washington Huskies 20-19. Now for this game, there weren't very many things that stuck out in this one. Chase Garbers, 11-8 for Cal. Chase Garbers, 11 of 18 for 118 yards, and that was it. Marcel Dancy, 7 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Cal defense, they stepped up. 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. And Greg Thomas hit 2 big field goals at 23 and 17 yards. I know it doesn't sound like much, but when you have a kicker who can hit a game winner and about 2 minutes left, you'll see what I mean. But for Washington, Jacob Eason, 18 of 30, 162 yards and an interception. Salvin Ahmed, 21 carries, 119 yards and a touchdown. The total yards for this game was so low, I couldn't believe it. 651 yards total offense between the two teams. Here's what I mean. The Cal Golden Bears only had 303 yards of total offense for the game. Washington had 348. Cal only passed for 111 yards. Washington only passed for 162. This game was decided on the ground. Cal rushed for a total of 192 yards to Washington's 186. And despite the fact that Cal went 3 for 11 on 3rd down, they got the job done. And you could take 2 huge Washington turnovers in that ball game. Wow. My comments on this game is the Pac-12 is weak. Everybody was thinking the Pac-12, the Huskies were like the favorites to win the Pac-12. I'm not so sure now. But I'm going to say this now. The Pac-12 as a whole right now is weak. And the Pac-12 is weak right now. That's all there is to it. Say what you want. It's just ridiculous that anything like this would happen. The bottom line is this. The Huskies lose to Cal. Last weekend, Auburn did it to Oregon. Now all of a sudden, is it time for a change in the Pac-12? We don't know. USC knocked off Stanford as well, 45-20. Stanford's out of the top 25. USC is in. But I'm going to say this now. The Pac-12 right now is a little weak. As in due time, I'm sure it will get better. But at the moment, the Pac-12 is weak. And that's all there is to it, my friends. And that's all there is to it. All right. Just real quick, I want to talk about my Ohio State Buckeyes. Everybody all over the country was saying, Ohio State, Cincinnati, oh, the Bearcats are going to play Ohio State close. Well, that didn't happen. Ohio State shut out Cincinnati 42-0. Justin Fields, 20-25 for 224 yards, 2 touchdowns. J.K. Dobbins, 17 carries, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns himself. We saw the old J.K. Dobbins on Saturday. We saw him play his heart out, and they take the Battle of I-71 over Cincinnati in a 42-0 shutout. Everybody all week was worried that, Luke Fickell, the former Buckeye assistant coach, he knows our system. He's going to take it. He's going to play us close. That game was over almost 10 minutes in. Luke Fickell had nothing. The previous Thursday, not a couple of Thursdays ago, they beat UCLA 24-14. And UCLA, they're on their way to another losing season. That's all there is to it. And when I watched that UCLA-Cincinnati game a few weeks back, I'm thinking, they may give us a battle. We were all dead wrong. That game was almost over about 10-15 minutes in. And that's all there is to it. They got the job done. And Ohio State deserves credit. Now, somebody explain to me why they went from number 5 to number 6 in the AP poll. Can somebody explain that to me? Well, I got an explanation. Somebody in the Southeast Conference is paying off the pollsters. There's a payout or something from the SEC. 3 of the 4 teams are from the top 4 teams right now are out of the Southeast Conference. And it's ridiculous what I'm seeing. But anyway, I'm not going to worry about that right now. The only poll that matters is the college football playoff poll that starts here somewhere down the road. I'll worry about that when the time comes. But anyway, Ohio State shuts out Cincinnati 42-0. And that was a huge win for Ohio State. And now, something else I want to talk about. I've talked about Ohio State, but I got to talk about Michigan. Did any of you guys see that Michigan-Army game this past Saturday? Michigan escaped over Army 24-21 in double overtime. Jim Harbaugh, had Michigan lost that game, it would have been Appalachian State all over again. Harbaugh is overrated. He's an overrated coach at Michigan. He has yet to beat Ohio State as a head coach. He's beaten us twice as a quarterback, but he has yet to get the job done as a coach against Ohio State. He's only beat Michigan State twice, but I will say this to you. Now, in all fairness, if Michigan would have lost that game, everybody, from the alumni to the student body to the university president, would be calling for his job. Right now, Michigan's got a lot of things to work on because they don't have an easy schedule. Now, they have an off week this week. Then they got to face Wisconsin. Then they have another game at home, I think, against Rutgers. Then they got Iowa in the big house here in a few weeks. Now, I'm going to say this now. Michigan looked totally lost out there. They didn't lead the game at all until the second overtime, when they came back and won it 24-21. Now, in all fairness, Army threw 4 passes total. Their quarterback only went 2 of 4 for 43 yards, and he was intercepted. The Army defense, 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. I've never seen anything like this. Both teams had 3 turnovers. Army turned it over in the second overtime to give to Michigan. And at the end of the half, at halftime, the Wolverine faithful were letting the Wolverines have it. They booed them right off the field. This was a game that Michigan should have won easily. Bottom line is this. Had they lost that game, Harbaugh would really be, his seat would have been really, he'd been on the sun had that game been lost. But it doesn't get any easier for Michigan. They have an off week this week. Then they got Wisconsin. Then they got to go on the road to Camp Randall up to Madison, Wisconsin to face the Badgers. Then they got an easy one, and then they got Iowa at home. And you know how some of those Iowa-Michigan games can go. But the bottom line is this. If Jim Harbaugh loses to Wisconsin, Iowa, or anybody like that, if he doesn't win the Big Ten championship, he's out. He should have been out last year. Think about it. Last year in the final game of the season against Ohio State, everybody was saying, oh, Michigan's going to blow our doors off. They're going to run us right out of the horseshoe. If my memory serves me correctly, didn't Ohio State run Michigan right out of the horseshoe with a 62-39 victory? And then they would go on and lose their bowl game against Florida 44-15. That would have been plenty of incentive for me to get rid of Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh should have been fired. You lose your games. You lose your final two games by a combined score of 106-54. Unbelievable. That big revenge tour last year got out to a bad start against Notre Dame, and it ended badly against Ohio State. But in all fairness, I'm not going to be fair to Jim Harbaugh. That's all there is to it. It doesn't get any easier. They got one of the toughest schedules in all of college football. And that's all there is to it. And the bottom line is this. If Harbaugh loses to Ohio State, and loses maybe one or two more games in the year, and they don't win the Big Ten championship, he's out. And a lot of the Ohio State faithful are saying, no. I'm like, yes. And that's the bottom line right there. Okay, let's move on, shall we? It's time to hand out some game balls from this past Saturday. For the Clemson-Texas A&M game, I got one game ball to hand out. Trevor Lawrence, 24-35, 268 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Congratulations to you, sir. You are the recipient of a Scott Manning game ball. For the LSU-Texas contest, I got some game balls to hand out. Joe Burrow, 31-39, 471 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. Justin Jefferson, 9 receptions, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns. Terrence Marshall Jr., 6 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. And the LSU defense for doing their part in that big victory. 7 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. Congratulations to all of you gentlemen. Every single one of you that I mentioned, the LSU defense and the 3 players on offense I mentioned, you are all going to be recipients of a Scott Manning game ball. For the Colorado-Nebraska contest, I have a couple of game balls to hand out. Steven Montez, 28-41, 375 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Katie Nixon, 6 receptions, 148 yards, and a touchdown. Congratulations to you two gentlemen. You two gentlemen are recipients of a Scott Manning game ball. For the Cal-Washington contest, Greg Thomas, the place kicker, went 2 for 2 on field goals. He kicked the game winner. And the Cal defense, 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. Congratulations to all of you gentlemen. All of you gentlemen are going to be recipients of a Scott Manning game ball. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for my Game of the Day pick. Drum roll, please. And the winner of the Scott Manning Game of the Day award goes to Texas LSU, the 45-38 classic that everybody's going to be talking about at least for a few weeks. Congratulations to all my game ball recipients on my Game of the Day pick. And my congratulations to all of you. Now, what is a Scott Manning game ball worth? It's worth nothing but a pat on the back and an attaboy. But I want to give some recognition out because that's just the way I am. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for my closing thoughts. What a weekend we had last weekend. Army almost embarrassed Michigan again. The Wolverines are not off the hook by any stretch of the mean. Ohio State did their part against Cincinnati. A lot of people are crying that they dropped one spot in the AP poll. We got a long way to go, but we don't have a short time to get there, people. Let's think about that. We got a lot of big matchups. We got some big matchups coming up this coming weekend. But I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot going on in the world of college football. It's a long season. We don't have a long way to go. We do have a long way to go, but we have a long time to get there. What a weekend it was. LSU, Texas, it was a classic. Joe Burrow getting the job done. And Clemson, proving that they're the best team in the country right now. But what can I say about the two upsets that I talked about? Colorado beating Nebraska, but what about the Cal Golden Bears? The Cal Golden Bears have not had much to talk about here in the last few weeks. Have not had much to talk about, except nothing bad. We saw some good from the Cal Golden Bears. Can they keep up the momentum? We'll have to wait and see on that. And right now, I will say it again. The Pac-12 is weak. When Auburn beat Oregon, that's when and UCLA lost the previous weekend. That proved that the conference is weak. And Cal upsetting Washington may have just proven my point again. So get ready. The season's just going to get more crazy and more crazy as the day goes on. And that's the bottom line, because Big Scott said so. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me. I'll be back Thursday night to get you ready for the weekend. Get you ready for the upcoming college football weekend. Thank you so much for being with me on here on this day. You guys have a great day, and God bless. Goodbye, everybody, and thank you.